Hello and welcome to So You Think You're Awake. I'm Michael Sheridan. Today we have Swaathi in the hot seat, but before we take a look at her interview, I want to remind you to please continue to send your dreams to radioshow@dream-analysis.com. I also want to cover, before the interview, some of the symbols that are in her particular dreams. The first symbol I want to cover from Swaathi's dreams is the sun. I've covered this on the show a number of times before, but it symbolizes a hands-on or spiritual healing ability. The sun is what projects energy and light into our planet, and without it there would be nothing here. There wouldn't be crops in the fields. So it's the perfect symbol to symbolize the life force energy that a hands-on or spiritual healer works with, that they channel through the body and out their hands and into their client. We see the sun in Swaathi's dream. We also see gold bracelets, and gold jewelry is another common symbol for this, because gold is the color of the sun, and also jewelry indicates something that's precious. So the two together say this is a precious ability that the dreamer has. Another symbol that I cover a lot that signifies this is a waiter serving food or drink, quite common in dreams for people who are spiritual healers. If we step behind that a bit, we also have the cook or the chef that prepares the food. And now it doesn't always mean that the dreamer has a hands-on healing ability, but it does in Swaathi's dreams. Think about it, food is an essential nourishment for our bodies, so it ties in with the way the sun symbolizes the same thing. So there's another symbol I want to cover that's not related to those, but it's very prominent in her dream. Now, I edited the interview and I took out some pieces to make it a little bit more concise, and I cut out one of the pieces that's essential, and that's a lizard. She dreams of two lizards, and in fact calls the dream the two lizards. Lizards indicate something that goes way back. Just think about how old lizards are, way, way older than mammals on the planet. So the lizards symbolize like a primordial or an ancient thing about Swaathi, and of course the dream is all about her. So it symbolizes, it says that everything else that's covered in the dream, the other gifts that are in the dream, including the hands-on healing ability, are something that goes back to a former life for her. Lastly, she mentions that the lizards are in the shape of an S, and of course, remembering that everything is you in a dream, that's one of the first rule of interpretation of dreams. The lizards are in the shape of an S, and of course that's the first letter of her name, Swaathi. So that's why we have that show up in the dream that way. So with all that said, let's have a look at Swaathi's dreams.
So I live in a suburban town in Southern California. I'm in the middle of a career transition into teaching because I always wanted to be a teacher.
So you sent me two dreams, and we're going to have a look at both of them in quick succession. I know this is kind of like new for you, but let's have a start. The first one is called Magical Lizards and Butterflies. And you say, you were messing around at home and two lizards approached me and asked if they could hang around the house with me. They didn't speak, but we communicated, and I of course said yes. I just seemed to continue with random house chores and time must have passed. So do you have an ability? So this immediately is talking about a special communication ability. And the dream goes even further, because you then later on you communicate with the lizards again, and you communicate with butterflies, monarch butterflies. So are you aware that you have an ability to communicate with the spirit world?
Yes. So I discovered this, I would say, I mean, I felt this my whole life, even growing up, but I wouldn't say that I was actually communicating until maybe a couple years ago, when I acknowledged that I had this ability. Before, I feel like I used to kind of deny it or ignore it just because I was either scared of it, or it was so kind of weird to me that I just didn't really explore it. But lately, but in the last few years, I would say 2 to 3 years, I really started to take it seriously and trust my intuition. And when I would feel people like spirits around me, or I would feel they were trying to tell me something in dreams, or were maybe in a room with me, or I heard something, I've just started to take it seriously. So I really do feel like I communicate with, and there's a couple in particular, but spirits, and that I've had encounters with, and they've all been positive, friendly, like guardian
Excellent.
angel type of spirits. So never anything scary or frightening or
No,
dark.
no Hollywood spirits.
No Hollywood spirits. All people that I really believe were with me in a past life. And so I feel like they're old companions.
Okay, well, that's great, because I was wondering if what I was going to say your dream is about was alien to you, but it's good that you're actually aware of this ability. But that's what it's about anyway, that first part. Then you say the lizards were in a male slash female pair, and they were green, but they seemed to glint with jewels on them and had a sun-like quality. So channeling requires male and female energy working in balance, and in fact you talk about them flying and forming a yin-yang kind of shape later on. So is that one of your goals, is to get your energy in perfect balance, male and female
Yes.
energy?
Yes, definitely. And I think about, I often think about male and female energy, and the balance of those two.
Excellent. So this would say that the channeling actually helps that, and so too does vibration, or raising your vibration through meditation. So do you meditate?
Yes, I do a lot of yoga, and I do meditate.
Okay, great. So you say they were green. Green is the color of the heart chakra, so that's the aspect that you have to do more of the work on. That's the same for almost all of us. But they seem to glint with jewels on them and had a sun-like quality, so that's really good. So the jewels says that they're precious, because jewels are precious. So this is a precious part of your nature. This special ability that you have is a precious part of your nature. And the reason it's the precious part of your nature is because your spiritual gifts are the only thing that you get to take with you when you pass on. None of the material thing gets to stay. But you already know this. Their bodies were curved in an S shape, and they floated in the air together like spirits, almost, and communicated with me at eye level. So even in the dream, you're saying they're like spirits, and they communicated at eye level. So when you communicate, do you get images, or do you get more than that? How does the communication work for you?
You mean with the lizards in the dream, or in general?
No, in general.
In general, I feel like it's a combination of, it's not audible, so it's not words and things I can hear, but it's like visual, and also just energy, or like a feeling and a thought that comes into my mind that I attribute coming from that spirit. Okay. Yeah.
When it works like that, this is for other people. It's a thought that when it's impressed on your mind, it's uplifting. So it's like a solution kind of a thought, rather than the world is terrible kind of thought. So you've got two ways. That's good. But the eye level is one that they're shown in the dream, the visualization, getting messages. In fact, the same way it works through dreams, you can get that symbolism as well. And then the sun-like quality is, I'm going to come back to, because you mentioned it later on. You say the next profound thing I remember is that the lizard suddenly rose higher. So this is really good. So this is telling you that this is what's going to happen for you. The more you channel, the more you connect, it's like you probably have reached a level and you're really happy with the level you're at, but you're just suddenly going to get catapulted up into the next level, which is probably what you're aiming for. But it's not a gradual thing. It's a bit like an electron leaving a shell. Eventually you've put enough energy in, and then boom, you're able to do it. And so it's saying that's going to happen. The sun and warmth streamed into my home, and the lizards danced with each other in circles and formed a romantic union in the shape of a yin-yang. And I covered that earlier. So that's really good. So this is saying that your goal for harmonizing male and female energy is part of what's going to get you to make this quantum leap. Okay. Then you say, suddenly my parents are also present. Now, here's what was interesting for me. Almost always when parents show up in a dream, that's this is something bad about the parents, because they've conditioned the dreamer in some way to deal with something. But straight away, my guides were saying, your parents are a really positive influence. And so I wanted to check that with you in advance, and I emailed you before this call just to confirm that. And you were glowing about both your parents. So that was really good. You said you're very like your dad, but your mom is the one who's really pushed you in the creative, into the creative spiritual side, really, you could say. But both very encouraging. So this is really good. So they're in your dream in a supportive capacity, which is really good. And you say they were joining me for a meal. I vaguely remember their entrance, but that wasn't a large part of the dream. I was cooking and they came with other food. They witnessed the union of the lizards. So to go back to the sun, because you were talking about the sun glinting on the jewels, and then the cooking, feeding people in a dream indicates you have a hands-on healing ability. And the sun symbolizes the same thing because it's what projects energy into our part of the universe. Without it, we wouldn't be here. So are you aware that you have a hands-on healing ability? Have you ever tried to use it?
No, Holly and I have talked about this. My friend Holly, who's also interested in, exploring these abilities, but I've only talked about it with people and people have suggested it to me, but that is an unexplored area for me. I felt like I could help people, but I've never felt or thought about whether it was through touch or, hands-on or hands-off kind of. So that's something I need to really maybe dive into in the future.
Cool. All right. And you will indeed. You say then the lizards flew out the front door and outside was a community of monarch butterflies forming a butterfly wall in front of us, my parents and myself. The sun was still streaming towards us from the east, even though in the dream it was morning. And of course, the east is where the light starts. So this is connecting with the source of light, which is really good. It's a really good symbol in the dream. And then the monarch butterflies. Monarch is a pun on, well, it's not even a pun, but you have a spiritual leadership ability. So that it's interesting that you say that you want to teach, because that is something you should be drawn to because it's something you're going to be good at. And spiritual leadership, of course, works through female energy. It's about listening to people and having compassion and understanding where they come from. It's not the Western style of leadership at all. But is this something you're familiar with?
You mean like the leadership piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am drawn to those kinds of things and very much so. And again, I'm not as somebody who thinks they know a lot of stuff, but it's just I feel like that kind of exchange or connection to have with someone is probably the most substantial one you can have. And I am interested in like mentoring young people or just sharing what I know and learn and helping other people with it.
Excellent. And of course you can channel. So when you're using your spiritual leadership ability, and a lot of it will be kind of automatic, it'll kick in. You'll just know what to say to people at a particular time. Because you're open and you practice spiritual meditation and yoga and various other things. So you've allowed yourself to be open over a long period of time. This is why the channeling works for you as well. But because the channeling is there, you've got that as a backup, not just a backup. The two will work in harmony. So if you get stuck on how you should help somebody, you can ask. And you can ask your guides or their guides or guardian angels. It's all terminology, but it's perfect. So I know with you, I'm speaking to the choir here, or preaching to the choir here. You say the butterflies asked me if they could stay for a while, and I said yes. The sun shone. So see how important the sun is for you in your dreams.
Right.
That's the hallmark of a spiritual healer. So a spiritual healer is somebody who uses their hands and channels energy through their body and out through the hands into their client. The sun shone behind their wings, and I could see the patterns. Then their stay was complete, and the wall of butterflies began to rise, some breaking off and flying up to the heavens. They thanked me for letting them stay, and my parents and I waved to them. I said, come back anytime, and they waved back, or there was a communication to that effect. You say it was all beautiful, uplifting, and resonated with you when you finished, when you woke up. So this says that you have the ability to see patterns in people's lives. Are you aware of that? So you're going to be working on because the patterns that you can see through the butterfly's wings is you can see how the conditioning that people pick up in their childhood can be healed. And that's what the sun behind the wings is about, because the sun is a symbol for healing. But you're able to help people heal that. Is that the type of work that you're drawn to do?
Yes, I can't believe you're saying all this because it's so, it's just so freakily specific. But yes, there are some people in my life, and I can maybe even offline talk about that a little bit with you. But there are people, and I was just thinking about this before we had this call. But I know a few people who've had very traumatic childhoods and things that they've carried with them, and I can very clearly see how those experiences have kind of, trickled into their life to the present day, and I can very clearly, in very linear fashion, see how one thing has led to another, and how they're kind of stuck in these cycles where they just keep repeating the same behavior or experiencing the same kind of maybe negativity because of those early experiences, and how it's all cyclical. So yeah, I think about that a lot. I've even thought about it with myself, and that's something I want to work on in my life, is knowing, very deeply what are my patterns, and what are my fears that are repetitive based on this lifetime and others, and how do I accept those and not instead accept them and work on them rather than them just being triggers for me all the time.
Excellent.
So
Yeah, that's really excellent. So when you see this in your dream, when you see that ability and that combination, like the healing for people, so you're going to actually physically help people heal as well as your spiritual leadership ability. But the butterfly is a symbol for change. So you're going to help people change. That's it. And so what you're drawn to do, what you're thinking about doing, is exactly what you are capable of doing. So it's really good to get that back up in the dream. It's not like, who am I to think I could do this? It would be a total waste of your lifetime if you didn't get into this work, because this is something you came here to do. You're meant to do.
Thank you.
The other interesting thing here is, because you say some of the butterflies broke off and flew up to the heavens. So you see more than just the patterns in childhood. You see the patterns over lifetimes, and you can also see this person isn't going to change in this lifetime. They're going to have to move on and come back, and that's what the flying up to the heavens is about. So it's like you've got a much bigger picture of these patterns than you're giving yourself credit for, or maybe you are, because you're probably humble. But this is something that's you're really going to excel at. So it's interesting that you're moving out of the family business, and hopefully going to be moving out of the family business with a bit of money that allows you to set yourself up doing something like this, because you're going to have clients.
Okay, thank you.
So can we have a look at your second dream?
Absolutely, yes.
It's much shorter. You call it jewelry shopping with my aunt. I had a dream that my aunt from India, who passed away almost a year ago, visited my parents' home. She was alone. Her husband wasn't there. She was dressed as she usually was, pink sari with some print with a sweater, and a round botu or bindi on her forehead. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
So that, for people who don't know, that's the red mark, or usually it's a red mark or jewel that Hindus often wear there. And that's a sign, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that's a sign of spiritual level or openness or willingness to be open, is it?
Yeah, it's a sign of that, and like just an auspicious kind of lucky women, a female energy, I guess, and auspicious female energy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So was there anything different? You said she was dressed the way she normally was. So I'm going to ignore the pink and everything like that, if that's what she normally wore. But as in, normally pink is about issues with your mom. But like I said, the guide said, this is not what your dream is about. So that's not where we're going. And you don't really have issues with your mom. You have the normal stuff, but you don't have a childhood where you'd look at it and you'd say, this is where my mom broke my spirit. You don't have any of that.
Oh, no, definitely not. Oh, so, I'm so lucky to not have that.
You are. So your parents show up for the best reasons in your dreams, because they're there to support you. And you said your mom pushed you creatively into spiritual work. So this is what she's doing again. She's pushing you further, a little bit out of your comfort zone. That's what it symbolizes here in the dream. You say, my mom asked me if I would take them to Kohl's to do some shopping. That's just like a regular store like Fred Meyer's. Mm-hmm. I at first hesitated, but then I took them. So this is about you being hesitant to make this change, which is coming up in the dream. You say, we got to Kohl's. My aunt directed me to the jewelry areas and told me she needed to buy 2 gold bracelets. So gold is the color of the sun, also symbolizes spiritual healing. So this is coming up in spades for you. I looked at the gold in the cases, and it was an Indian gold, like the kind you would find in an Indian gold shop, 24 karat, no fake stuff. So again, remember, this is about your hands-on healing ability. So in the dream, you're saying, wow, this is the real deal. My hands-on healing ability, there's nothing fake about it whatsoever. So what do you think about the whole idea of having a hands-on healing ability?
I think it's great, and I'm now excited to just actually embrace it and learn about it. Again, these are things that I feel intuitively, but I haven't taken action on some of them. Just like you said, for the reason of thinking, who am I to think that I have this kind of ability, or am I kidding myself? Those kinds of self-doubt type things. Yeah. But I think it's great. And I would love to, actually open up about it. And I feel like this whole chat with you is going to help me. Again, it's just somebody validating a feeling that you have and kind of encouraging you to go for it, which is, I guess, what I've been waiting for. Again, people have told me, like, I have an astrologer I'm close to who she's actually an evolutionary astrologer, and she has really encouraged me and told me that I'm going to be some kind of person who helps people understand their purpose, and that it's going to maybe take me some time to figure out how to do it, or, just actually embrace the fact that I have it. But I just feel like this is another great experience for me with you, and kind of telling me that it's real. It's not just something that, is in my imagination.
Perfect. Yeah. And of course, you realize when you're working with the patterns with people, we take on patterns on purpose because it helps us free ourselves from patterns that we have in the spirit world. So, the issues with mom and dad, or the issues in childhood, they're not a mistake. They're part of what are dealing with those is the biggest part of our life purpose. So let's see. I didn't know who the bracelets were for. I was thinking in the dream they were maybe for her daughter-in-laws back at home, but that was never made clear, and maybe it was an assumption. Later, as I was lucid or waking up, I began to get the feeling that they were for my sister and myself. So of course, everything in a dream is an aspect of you. So it wouldn't matter in the dream if it was for her daughters. It's for you. It's always about you in the dream. So it's really just saying that you have this ability. And I think the rest is you're talking about how you felt about the bracelets later on in the dream. Of course, we have the 2 bracelets. So 2, don't forget, is also about your channeling, your ability to channel. The number 2 is littered all over channel streams. So I'm just going to go to, you say the most valuable part of this dream were the bracelets, of course, because that's the most precious part of your nature. Using your abilities, because using your spiritual abilities is how you fulfill your karmic obligations. It's how you fulfill your life purpose and repay your debts that you owe to other people, or whatever it happens to be, whatever the reason is. But you can't do it with anything else. So that's valuable. I asked the man to get the ones she chose out of the case, and that's really good. So they're in a display case, presumably, which is all about making them look attractive, because the whole idea is to lure you in and say, come on, look, please take a bracelet, because you'd like them. They're lovely. And of course you do, which is good. I mean, you do via the ant. You say the second bracelet which enraptured me was of a goddess. The figure of a goddess was standing, not seated, and the gold was less shiny. It had more of an Iron Age rustic look, like antique gold you would find in the earth from a long time ago. I ran my thumb over the figure of the goddess again and again. Her figure looked like a flame in some kind of cosmic position or dance, with legs intertwined and hands reaching up, arms in an embrace. Her hips were wide. So, well, you say she wasn't a goddess that was easily recognizable in Hindu iconography, but it was a Hindu/Vedic figure. So this is saying, because it's all about you, because of the antique gold, it says this is something you did in a former life. You were a healer in a former life. And so it's going to be like second nature for you. This isn't like all new. When you step into these things, it's just part of who you are. Do you have a strong connection with former lives? Because you're kind of alluding to the fact that you do.
Yes, very much so. So, and I won't spend too long on this, but yes. So that's why I talked to an astrologer in the first place, was because as a kid, I had really interesting dreams that also were kind of subterranean. Like the main recurring one was that I was, a young woman, like maybe a bride or something, and I was in like an underground tunnel. It was in India, and my dad was with me, which is why I believe that I have been traveling with him for quite a while. And there was another man there who I felt was my soulmate. And this recurring dream that I would have since I was a young girl into, very recently I stopped having it. But it was just about these two men in my life going off to fight somewhere in a war. And it was kind of, they all died and everyone I knew passed away. And I was just left. And I just had, that was one example of how I would just felt connected to this ancient life where I lost everything and lost everyone. And so that kind of motivated me to talk to an astrologer about it, and she confirmed all of that for me. And since then, it kind of became more clear to me that the spirits I was communicating with were for people from that time, especially this one that I believe, he's not here all the time, but it's a male spirit that kind of is with me sometimes or watches me and when I'm alone and kind of is there to protect me. And I really believe that he is that person that was in the tunnel with me, with my dad and my father's with me in this lifetime again. So I very much feel that I past life connections, and sometimes they're very clear to me. So, I feel like I can see that and just like scenes from those lives. So yeah, I feel very strongly, and that's a huge part of my whole, exploring all of these different things that we're talking about. That's a huge component for me.
Excellent. You've got the abilities from a former life. You've got the awareness of former lives, and also you're saying that her figure looked like a flame. So this is quite interesting. So it's like it's a heart reference. So you had green in the previous dream. So it's like a lot of this works through feeling for you.
Okay.
This connection with your inner goddess, let's say. But you have this, and it's really good to see it, and rare to see it. In fact, rare to see it in dreams. So they're your two dreams.
Okay.
I hope they make sense.
It's wonderful. This is a huge, lovely experience for me to talk to you.
So that's it for this week. I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit like and subscribe on YouTube. I want to thank Swaathi again for being in the hot seat. If you would like to be in the hot seat, either for an audio or a video interview, please let me know when you send your dreams to radioshow@dream-analysis.com. And please do continue to send your dreams because they're essential for this show. I want to remind you, go to dream-analysis.com to find out everything about me and this show. You'll find all the archives to previous podcasts and so on. And also information about upcoming courses, which I do all the time. Thank you very much. See you next week.